blue mats and the red mats, or with the different bowls. How many more small dog bowls than big ones? Yep. How many more small dogs than big ones? How many to the left? How many to the right? How many dogs have a ball? So just lots and lots and lots of math just in this one image from one page in the kindergarten little book. And we're going to look at a few more of those books as we move through tonight. But just to get our minds on math, and bienvenue, welcome. I am Jordan Sloan, and I am the bilingual literacy coach for Renfrew County. And I started with Mathologie with my kindergarten class when it was released in French. That was, what, 4 years ago now, perhaps? And then as Mathologie continued to develop in French, I moved to grade 1, and then I got to try it with my grade 1 students and my grade 1-2 students and my grade 2 students. So these are some of my students actually playing and working through math, very hands-on, and I'm going to show you all of that tonight. So if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat anytime. And we're going to start with what is Mathologie. So it's a math program. It's based on the curriculum. It was developed with educators from across Canada, and it really allows us to teach our students at their level. So we can see with our learning progression, which we're going to look at next, where our students are and what the next step is in their math learning and their development. And you can see along the bottom here on the left side of the screen, the professional resources. And so you may have some of these in your school taking shape, what to look for, elementary and middle school math, and teaching math with meaning. And all of those were used to develop Mathologie. You can also see the learning progression, and there are professional development videos throughout Mathologie.ca. And I'm going to show you some of those tonight just to help move you along. On the other side of the screen, so over to the right, you can see the resources for students and for the classroom. And there are Mathologie activity kits for grades 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 are currently available in French. Grade 3 is currently available in English and coming soon in French. And grade 1 and 2 are both available online on Mathologie.ca. Below that, you can see the little books. There are 72 little books, fiction, nonfiction books. They go from kindergarten to grade 3. They have teacher's guides with all kinds of activities in them and really help with some engaging math stories. And it all comes together on Mathologie.ca, which is the online platform where we can search, we can plan, we can teach. I'm going to show you how you can actually do your evaluation, your assessment right on there, and some professional learning all included. So lots and lots. And we're going to look at all that tonight. So I started to mention the learning progression. And the learning progression is set up. This one is kindergarten to grade 3. There is currently a grade 4 to grade 9 in English that's coming soon in French. And the learning progression is based around these big ideas. So we've got our number strand. We're looking at that big idea that numbers can be added and subtracted. And then below that, we can see, like the cadre conceptuel, we can see those ideas. And moving from the left to the right, we start with our kindergarten and we move up through those indicators right up to our grade 3 level. So if we look at one a little more closely, we can see that we go right from maternelle right up to grade 3. And so all of the resources in Mathologie are built around these learning progressions and where we're going to take our students. So we can see where on that learning progression our students are, and then we can see what we need to do next. So for example, with this one here, we're going to look a little bit at fluency, and we may have students starting right here with adding and subtracting with ease up to 5. So that's one of the kindergarten little books right there that we could use. As we move into tens, we can see here we've got that little book that I showed you right at the beginning. And as we look at complements of 10, we've got an activity card from the grade 1 kit. As we continue along the continuum, we can see we've got some fiches reproductibles. We can move into adding and subtracting to 20. We can get into some mental math and get a little bit more efficient. We can use some estimation. And then we can get all the way up to our complements of a 100. And this is just one example of some of the materials, some of the resources that you could use along this progression, but there's all kinds of different options. There's lots and lots. Wait till you see it. So we're going to look at Mathologie.ca, and all of the components of Mathologie are included there. And what I really love is that it is adapted and not translated. So it's really meant for, not necessarily meant for, but adapted for immersion. So oftentimes, excuse me, I've been working with students at a grade 1 or grade 2 level, and I found appropriate math activities, but the French language was just so far beyond them. Or I found things that were at their language level, but the math was just way too low for them. So this brings it all together and works so well for immersion. The stories are super captivating. It works really well for use at home, for use in the classroom. So I'll show you a little bit about, how to adapt this for virtual teaching. There's lots and lots of options for differentiation and for combined classes. And there's all kinds of short professional learning videos throughout. So you can, pick up that math. Maybe you need a little reminder. Short videos to get you into that math thinking. So as you work your way around the circle here, if we start with the little books, you can see that that's an example of what a little book will look like online. You go across, there are plans. So there are monthly plans. There are concept plans, fundamental concept plans. There are annual plans. So your whole long range plan could be done. There are all of the activities. There are the videos, and there are the reproducible sheets that you can download as PDFs, or you can use in Word and modify for extra practice. And they all come together on Mathologie.ca, which we're going to take a look at now. So if you have any questions while I'm changing over to the next screen, feel free to type them into the chat.
And Jordan, it's Patty. I haven't seen any new questions yet, so.
Okay. So we're going to move right into Mathologie.ca. And all I've done at this point is logged in. So you're seeing the first thing that I see. And I did personalize this screen, and I'll show you how you can personalize your screen with the activities that you want along the bottom. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to search. So in the search bar, quick and easy, just like any search that you would do. If you want to look up, say, let's look up compter, and we can search through here, and we can see that there are 122 results for counting. And as you go down, you can see that there are little books, and all grades are on here. So there's quite a lot. And then as we work our way down, we get into the activity cards and so on. So if this is just a little too much, even though you're in counting, we can further refine this search. So the first thing we can do is go to grade. So if I'm looking, for example, at grade 1, you can see now I'm at 46 results. I can go into number, it's counting, but if I wanted to change it up, and I can go into type. So I can look at the activity cards, I can look at the little books, I can look at interventions, right? So if I want to see here all the activity cards, now I've got 23 results for counting for grade 1 with activities. So that's a quick, easy search right off the bat. If I go back to the home screen, I can put all the lessons up. So afficher toutes les leçons, that'll show me everything, and then I can do that search from there. I can also search by curriculum. So if I click on here, I can choose my grade, so kinder all the way up. And as I click on, I can see all of my expectations, and I can see these little magnifying glasses, and I'm going to see what goes with, let me see if I can, kindergarten curriculum here. If there is a math concept in there, then I'm going to find that link right away. So I would just click on the magnifying glass and it would take me there, right? So if I look, for example, at grade 1, it's going to show me the magnifying glasses. So if I'm looking for this specific expectation, it'll show me all of the results for that specific expectation in the curriculum. And the other way to search is through that learning progression that I was showing you before. So you can see for all of the strands, it kind of works the same way, those big ideas at the top, right? And then we can break it down into our code conceptuel, and you can see every part of that learning progression. You can slide it along. And then you can click on the magnifying glass and it will take you to all of the lessons for that part of the learning progression. So that's a quick and easy way to search. I am going to show you some of what you're going to find when you search next. And I'm going to start with a little book. And because we're looking at what's new in Mathology tonight, I thought I'd show you some of the grade 2 stuff because it's new online. And everything's really set up in the same way. So we start with the little book at the top. We've got our little apropos, so some stuff about our lesson. As we go down, we've got our accent on math, and we've got our link to the curriculum and to that learning progression. So we can see where we are on the learning progression. If we want to go a little further forward, we can slide it along or go back. And we can see that this little book goes with 2 big ideas. So they're both here for us. If we go back up to the top, we get into the details, and this is where we find our little book. And then that link to the little book is right there. So I'm going to show you that, but before I go, onto the side here, there are some ideas. So as you're sharing this story, there are things that you can do with your students. And then as we go down to the bottom, there are ways to present the book and things that you might do with this little book as you're reading it the first time. So to get to the little book, it's linked right into Mathologie.ca. You click on it. It's going to bring you right here, and you've got 2 options with the little book. So you've got the option to listen and read, which is great. I've used a lot in my class if I've had a supply teacher who is not French. The option to have it read to the students is right there. I've also used it as a listening center. So if you've got the physical books, there's a QR code on the back. If not, we can use the web address, and you can use that in your password protected Google Classroom or whatever platform you're using. And then students can listen to the story. So I'm going to show you that option first because it's great, again, adapted, so it's not too fast for students. So you can see the story there, you can see all those great pictures. And then we have the option to listen. So I'm just going to unplug myself.
On peut acheter certaines de ces choses et les envoyer à des gens qui en ont besoin, explique M. Gagnon. Les élèves ont d'autres questions. On a besoin de combien d'argent? Comment est-ce qu'on va décider quoi acheter? Où est-ce qu'on va trouver l'argent?
That read to your students. It's not super fast, again, adapted for the immersion classroom, and that's right there, and you can work your way through the whole book that way. The other option is to do an activity. So what I've often done with my students is have them listen to the story on an iPad or on their device, and then try the activity. And it'll come up there. And again, the activity can be read to the students. And then you've got almost an interactive whiteboard down here. So you can move things along and do the activity. And if you need a little reminder of the math, or you want to send something to parents about the math concepts, that's right there in the activity for you. So going back to Mathologie.ca, that's all about the little book. And I'm going to move you next to the next tab over, which is about connected resources. So at the top, you can see there are ideas for after the reading, things that you can do with your students. There's options for additional activities, and they're all linked right in there. And there is this great option in PDF and in Word for activities to send home. So if you're working, you just click on it, it links you right there. And this letter is adaptable, so it's got some ideas that you can put into the letter that has to do with the math that you are teaching. So this was great in the spring when I was looking for ideas for my students to practice the math concepts that we were learning in our virtual classroom. I had this right there ready to go. So I could share that for ideas at home. There's also, if there's any activities or any tools or support that goes with that little book. So maybe it's going to be grille de mathématiques, maybe it's going to be a number line, maybe it's going to be an activity that they're going to work on. That's all linked right there. And then we've got this learning. So I was telling you about the professional development videos. So if you click on there, there are these short videos that are going to give you the math and maybe just a reminder of the math behind it. So I'll just play the beginning for you.
Combien de muffins voyez-vous? Avez-vous compté, additionné ou multiplié? Dans cette vidéo, nous explorerons le parcours d'apprentissage de l'idée principale. Les quantités et les nombres peuvent être additionnés et soustraits pour déterminer combien il y a d'éléments décrits dans la progression des apprentissages de Pearson. Plusieurs ressources Mathologie, comme ce petit livret de 2e année, aident les élèves à développer leur compréhension de l'addition et de la soustraction et leur aisance avec ces calculs.
So you can get that little extra PD right there with the little book that has to do with the exact concept that you're working on. So that very quickly, is the little book and what that looks like online. I'm going to move into an activity next, unless you have any questions. You can pop those into the chat.
Hey there, Jordan. There's a couple questions, and to be honest, 2 of them will need a bit of follow-up. So Karen asked the question if there's a way to turn off the reading ability for the audio for the read alouds, and I'm not sure about that, so I can follow up with that. And Nadine has a great question about the letters to parents. So we often get the question, can they be in English for the parents at home? And the quick answer is yes. It just depends on what license you have, and we can follow up with you on how to ensure that you have the option of having some of the materials in English inside your French license.
All right, so let's check out an activity card next. So we're going to stick with those compléments de 10, and we are going to check out this grade activity. So another grade 2 activity, and it's set up it's set up very similarly to the little book with those same options at the top, along with évaluation, which we're going to look at shortly. So we've got our about the lesson, our little apropos. We've got our curriculum links. We've got our learning progression down here. Again, we can slide that forward and back with those big ideas. And if we go back up to the top, so that's our overview, we can also see how long and what format the activity is going to take place. And they're super easy to modify. I know it's not always easy to work in pairs right now, but it's easy to modify, and you'll see when these activities come up how we can do that. So the first thing you're going to see in the details is this is exactly, if you've got La Trousse in your class, this is what the teacher card looks like. So it starts off with the materials at the top. It tells you what activity, what grade. And if there are additional materials you need, they are linked right in here. So for this one here, we need a fish. You can take it in a PDF and click it right up there. It'll come up right here for you. The other option is to bring it up into Word, and then it can be modified. And then as you work through, you've got your 3-part lesson. So the steps you're going to take, your avant, what you're going to do to get minds on, your déroulement, alors qu'est-ce que tu vas faire, what you're going to do with your students, and your consolidation back up here. You've also got, if you slide down a little further, ideas to differentiate. So you've got options here to accommodate, you've got options to enrich the learning, to go a little further, and you've got options for combined grades. So all right there using that same activity. Back up at the top, your consolidation, things to make clear to your students. So à faire remarquer, things that you might want to bring out if it's not coming out with your students. And then some things that you're going to want to watch for. So maybe some strategies that your students are using, some behaviors that you're seeing. You've also got these questions d'approfondissement. So to take that math thinking and really figure out where your students are, these are some questions you might want to ask them that go with this activity. And when I first started with Mathologie, like there is a lot, there's so many resources here for you. I have to say I didn't really take the time to appreciate these questions. I just wanted my students to do the activity properly and get all the other components. But The second time I went through, I noticed these questions and really took advantage of them and just got that much more out of the activity and out of my students. So I encourage you to look at those, even if it's the second time through. At the bottom, you've got the images of the actual cards. So if you bring them up, this is the teacher card. This is what it looks like in the kit. All the same components that I showed you at the top. On the back of the card, you've got the strategies and the behaviors that your students might exhibit while they're doing this activity, along with the next steps. And this is right in Mathologie.ca as well, and I'm going to show you what that looks like on this platform. But on the card itself, this is what it looks like. And then you can see the student cards. So that card is set out right there for you. And that's what your students would have in the class. The option here is you've got this little green button at the bottom. If you click on that, you can save it as a PDF, and then you can use it in your learning platform, your password protected learning platform. And then any les cartes multi-usage, so all these tools that you can use to help support your student learning is all right there for you. At the bottom, which is great, there are interactive tools. So if you are teaching in an online platform, they are available for you right here. So this one here has les jetons. You can then take those and you can slide them right on over. Nope, my computer seems to want to use the mouse in a funny way tonight. It's interesting. But you can slide those right over, so you've got your jetons right in there. Maybe it's going to be money, right? Whatever interactive tools that you might need, they're right there at the bottom, linked for you. Back up at the top, I'm going to come back to Évaluation, and I'm just going to move over to Les Ressources Connexes, because this is another great option that you've got for these activities. You've got mini lessons that are attached right to those same ideas that you are doing in your activity. So you've got some for the current grade level. You've got 2 options for intervention and an enrichissement if you want to go a little deeper. And if you click on that, you've got all the materials, again, the links if you need them. You've got examples, you've got the instructions, the practice, everything you're going to need. And again, that print button right there. You've also got les idées fausses possibles, so some possible false ideas that your students might have and some suggestions to overcome that. And then you've got ideas for after the lesson. So you've got next steps in class, so things that you can be doing. And you've also got next steps at home, which was another great tool that I used in the spring with my students, because I could then, we could work together as a class, and then I could send them off maybe asynchronously to try some of these out. Along the bottom, I've got ideas for a word wall, and I've got connected lessons. So if I'm looking for more practice at grade level, I can see that right there. Or I can go further along. Maybe I'll have an intervention, math every day. So different things that are going to link in, and I've got previous grade options. And again, along the side, I've got those professional learning videos that we looked at before, and I've got some learning highlights from this particular activity. So I'm going to take you back to Évaluation, because this is one of my favorite parts. So the back of that teacher card that I showed you had the behaviors and the strategies that you might see in your students doing this activity. It's all right here. So those 6 boxes are right there. So you can see right online the same thing as that teacher card. If I pick my grade 2 class here, you can see all my students are up here. I can drag and drop my student into whatever strategy or behavior that I'm seeing as they do this activity. I might have several students in the same spot, so I can click on all of them and just click there and it'll move them all over. And then the best part is I can see their next steps. So if I've got this strategy here where my students are finding the complements of 10 by counting, I can look at prochaines étapes and I can see what I can do right in that moment with my students to help progress them. If it happens to be an activity where there is a link to that intervention, that'll be right in there for me to see. So it's all right there. And then once you've done this, you can come back up to the top here where it says Analytique, and you can go to Analytique de la classe, so you can see your whole class. So I'm going to show you my grade 1 class because there's a lot on here. And you can see all of the activities that we've done, and you can see where we're at. So you can see, you know, we're trucking along, we're getting there. We can see that we're on the right track, or you might even see like we need to spend a little more time working on repeated patterns. So I can see where those same boxes that were on the back of that card, I can see how many students I've got in each spot. So if we look at the activity we were just looking at, you look at my grade 2 class here, you can see how many students we had in each spot. You can also look at this same thing from a student view. So this is my whole class, but I can look at each individual student. So if I'm going to take my friend Fred here, I can see Fred in grade 1. These are all the activities that Fred has done, and I can see where he is on those teacher cards, and I can see if he's on track. So we're doing quite well with story problems, but you know, we're having a little bit of a problem with doubles. And so this is a quick view, so I can see everything there, which is great if I'm having a conversation with my admin, or if I'm having a conversation at a parent-teacher interview, because I can see right there where we're at, and I've got all of those next steps. So I can say, you know, Fred needs a little more work with doubles. Here's what we're going to do. All right there. Any questions about the activity cards?
No more questions yet. Jordan?
Okay. So this is one of the best parts. If you come to the top here where it says plan, you're going to see that there are plans created for you that you can use with all of the resources put in there. So it's just taking a moment to load up. And the option at the top here is Mes plans. So if I want to create my own plan, oh, I'm not sure what's happening here. There we go. There are examples of plans that have been created, and we're going to look at one of those. And if you are working with another teacher who has Mathologie.ca and you want to share plans, you've got the option to do that right there. So we are going to look here at Planification annuelle, première année. And this is a grade 1 long-range plan that's created up here. And there are lots of different plans. And the plans that are created, the long-range plans that are on here, do cover the curriculum. So you don't need to worry about checking the curriculum on this one. They're done for you. Everything is right in there. So if I get us to where we're at here, Comparer, end of October, I click on Comparer ordonné, I can see everything here, all the activity cards, all the little books that I would use for that. So the great thing that I can do with this is I can take this plan and I can adjust it and I can make it my own. So if I come to the green button up here, Utiliser le plan, I'm going to name it. And it's going to take a moment to load it. And now I can do whatever I want with this plan. So it's become my own. So if I'm looking along here, I can decide, you know what, I really don't want to start here. I want to start with counting. I can take counting and I can slide it up to the top. If I want to change the title, I can come right over here. So if I go to counting and I decide, you know what, I started a little late, I want to change that to October, I've got the option to do that. And then I can see all of the resources for grade 1 for counting. So there are 3 little books on here. I don't know that I would ever get through 3 little books in half of a month, in 2 weeks. It takes about a week to really get into the little book, but I might want to keep them all on here and say, you know, this year, write a little note to myself saying, this year I'm trying A Safari and this is a great one. Or maybe I want to say, you know, un repas famille, I'm not going to try this year, so I will put try next year. So I can give myself little notes. I've got the option with this pin. So remember when I first started way back, I said that you could personalize that home screen that you got to. If you pin it, this will go right onto your home screen. I've got the option, if I do decide, you know what, I don't want a repas famille in my plan, I can push the little garbage can, it'll disappear. I can move things up and back, and I can click off when I'm done an activity or when I'm done a little book. So they're all right here. And again, that'll link by clicking on it, it'll take you right to that little book. So just like we looked through all of the components of the little book, it's all right there. You've also got the option to add to this. So if you're teaching a grade 1-2 class and you want to create one plan, you can add some of the grade 2 activities right in here. So you've got the option to add other lessons. So if I want to go into grade 2, I'm going to see that these activities down here are going to change to grade 2, and I want to look at number. It's going to show me everything there, and maybe I want to see activity cards. So these are going to be all the grade 2 activity cards for number, and I can scroll through and add those to my plan. The other option is going to be to add something other than Mathologie. So over the years, I've collected a couple of great things that I may want to bring into this plan. So I can click here, I can name it, and I can put the URL, and that'll get added right into my plan as well. So the planning is fantastic. It's already set up. Like I said, you can create your own plan. And then if you come to this green button at the top here, you can check and see if you've covered all of the parts of the curriculum. So the plans that are already created when you get Mathologie, they are covering the curriculum. But if you create your own, you may want to double check that. That's right there. You can also get a list of the materials you're going to need. You can share it with somebody else who has Mathologie.ca, and you can export. So you can pull it out and print it. So that's all right there for you. Any questions?
So Jordan, yeah, we have a couple of questions here. First one, while you're on the home page, could you go over, maybe just do a search for all the activity cards that are in Mathologie.ca?
Mm-hmm. Do I just type in activity, or do I look at all? Let's see what works here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I go back to the front and I go to search everything, there's a lot. There are 991 things here. So if I'm just looking for the activity cards, I'm going to go to type, I'm going to go to activity, and then it's going to show me the activity cards that are on here. So there are a few, because of the new Ontario curriculum, there are a few activity cards that are in development, so they're coming soon to fit in with that new curriculum, but everything else is in here ready to go.
Thanks, Jordan. And so you were leaning into the next question, which is around the curriculum, the new Ontario curriculum, and how and when will Mathologie match this new curriculum?
Okay, well, maybe I'll jump back before I go through the home screen then and look at that. So if I go back here, I'm just going to change screens. So you're going to come back to my main screen here. And that is going to take us to the correlations. So there are correlations for all of the curriculums across Canada. And with the new Ontario curriculum, there are alignment charts. So we are going to look at that. And when you click on this link, and I can actually put the link right in the chat for you. Whoops. Help if I didn't delete it first, wouldn't it? There we go. So the link is right there in the chat. And if you scroll down, you can see with Mathologie, all the correlation charts. So if I pull up grade 2, I can see the Ontario correlation with the new curriculum. So at the top, I've got my overall objectives. Then I've got my specific objectives over here on the left. And then with that, I can see as I carry over to the right, I've got all of the activity cards that are going to go with that specific expectation. I've got all the little books that are going to go with that specific expectation. So the ones that are at grade level, the ones I might use for scaffolding, and the ones I might use to go just a little further along. And then I've got those links to the big ideas in the learning progression. So that's one thing that's available on that. And if you go a little further down, you're going to see this planning tool here. And that is set up a lot in the same way, and it's going to link us to how the activity cards are being adapted. So they will be adapted completely in Mathologie.ca, but right now, because the new curriculum came out and Pearson received it at the same time as we all received it as teachers, what they've done as they're updating those cards is they've put this last column here ways that you can adapt the activities as they are now. So maybe it'll be counting. So for this one here, activity 1, we're gonna make sure that we're counting up to 200, right? So maybe it'll be a different manipulative that we use. Maybe it'll be a different tool that we're going to use, or maybe there'll be a check mark saying that it's all good, or maybe there'll be a avenir, which means a whole new activity is coming. So that's about the Ontario curriculum. I'm just going to take you back to the home screen to show you one more thing because we're getting close to the end of our time. So I said to you that you could personalize your home screen here, which is really useful for me. I've done it Monday to Friday. I've also done it day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've also done it just so that if I have a supply teacher in, what they need is right there on the home screen, ready for them. And the way to get them in there is I can go into my favorites and I can pin something, or I can just pick a lesson and pin it. So to make something a favorite, I'm just going to go along the side. And if I decide, you know, I really love Prêt pour l'école, I'm going to click on the heart, and it's going to move that little book into my favorites so that I don't have to search through, and I'm not, you know, trying to remember what little book I liked so much. And then when I go up into my favorites, I can see that that little book is right there. And then if I decide I want that little book right there on my home screen, I'm just going to take off, for example, this one here, and I'm going to add this one on. And when I go back to my home screen, Prêt pour l'école is right there. So it's super easy to change in and out. I can change it every week. I can change it as it suits me. Any other questions? I am going to.
Hi, Jordan. There's
Yeah.
near the end around price and stuff like that, which I'll cover off when we get to the end.
Okay. So just because we went through everything quickly, just to show you again everything there is. So there are the petits livrets, all the little books. There are the activities, the options to listen. So you can see that's one of my students. That's how we did our listening center. They could listen along and then do the activity on their own. There are all of the activity cards. So this is one of our composing, decomposing 10. So this is some of the ways that we've played it in our classroom. And this was, you know, socially distanced, independent, instead of playing with a partner, you know, with the COVID time. And we were able to, all these cards, if you do have the actual cards, are laminated and you can wipe them off every time. There are all of les fiches reproductibles, so the web address is there for all those line masters. And all of that, the correlations, everything will be right there for you.
Jordan,
Yes.
were you wanting to show your PowerPoint?
Is it not showing?
I am seeing Mathologie.ca still.
Oh my goodness. I'm not sure where it went then. I am talking away as if I'm showing it.
I wondered.
Sorry about that.
The chat and missed that. Sorry.
All right, let's see if I can get back to the right screen here.
And while you're doing that, Jillian
There
asked
we go.
about how to share with supply teachers and then how to share with students. So Jillian, I'll say that this is a teacher tool. There are aspects that you can share with students virtually. And there are print resources that are student facing, like the math little books. And Jordan, I think we covered a few of the ways where we could, the teacher could share a lesson with a supply teacher.
Yeah, so for me, I'm not sure how, like every school is a little bit different, but in our school, I would just have my Mathologie ready to go on my computer for my supply teacher when they came in. And I would have that home screen set up with what they needed exactly.
And you just let them know what you're
Yeah, what my plan is and how to do it. Well, I mean, I could let them know my password, but I would just have it ready on my computer.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that
Can you
help?
see my PowerPoint now?
Yeah. Thank you.
I clicked the wrong button. So there, like I said, there's the the little books, and there's one of my students checking that out with the activities that go along with it. The composing and decomposing. So this is some of my students socially distanced, playing on their own, trying to find as many ways as they could to make 10. The fiches reproductibles, so all your correlations are there, and you can print them, you can pull them in on Word and adjust them any way you need to. And then lots of options to use in your virtual classroom. So like I said, you can print to that PDF and load it up. You can use the interactive tools, and you've got the options to share those little books. So you can see I've pulled one of the little books into my Google Classroom. That's just a screenshot of it there. So then my students can click on that and listen and do the activity. There's also lots of options for differentiation. So this is just one example. But if I look at this activity 4 en ligne, maybe it's a bit too much for some of my students. The other side of the card is going to have 3 lignes. And again, that's in Mathologie.ca. Maybe I've got a combined grade, so I'm going to go look at where it says Master 93, that fiche reproductible, and the numbers are a little bit bigger, so I could use that with a combined class. I've got the cards that go with it, and then I've got those tools. It is quite easy to share virtually, yeah. And then the things that are coming soon. So these are things that are currently available in English and are being updated and adapted for French. So the math mats, there's a little book, and if we have a moment, I'll show you what those look like. And those are write on, wipe off, all of the different mats that you can use to really see your students thinking. That Planification des apprentissages, that learning progression, is now coming out in grade 4 to 9. The activity kit for grade 3 is out now in English and is coming soon in French, and will be, Number Sense will be online this summer for grade 3. Do we have questions?
Oh, you know what? I'm just slowly typing an answer. So, so I'm just going to say it out loud. Karen asked a question about online learning. Can students access the manipulatives? So those are the virtual manipulatives. We have roughly 20. And yes, you can share the URL for those within a password protected site if you want them to access that.
So what I've done is done a screen grab of the activity so that it's projected up so that my students can see it, and then shared the link to those interactive tools, and then my students can use them.
Can you say that again? Sorry, Jordan.
Yep, I can do a screen grab of the activity so that my students can see it, and I can put that in my Google Classroom, and then I can provide the link to the interactive, so to like the jetons or what my students need to do the activity, and they've got access to that, to those interactive tools.
Thank you.
And yes, Jillian, it is easy to share virtually. I've shared, like you can project the activity cards for your students to be working. You can share the little books. I use Google Classroom, and I find it really, really